to it. You guys probably already know if you've been on the Twitter. The Cavaliers and the Timberwolves have agreed in principle to send forward Kevin Love to Cleveland for Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, and a 2015 first-round draft pick, according to ESPN and media reports. The Cavs agreed to the deal after receiving a commitment. Love will opt out of his contract in 2015 and re-sign a 5-year, $120 million extension with Cleveland. Sources tell Yahoo Sports that. No trade can be finalized, though, until August 23rd because Wiggins, the #1 pick in this year's draft, cannot be traded for 30 days after signing his rookie contract. Stephen A. Smith, we now have this information. How good will the Cavs be?
Well, first of all, I think they're going to the finals. Let me be very, very clear about that. One thing I want to do before we even get into this, give props to our competitor, Adrian Wojnarowski, for Yahoo Sports. He's been all over this, of course, along with our boy Chris Broussard. Both of them deserve a lot of credit. They've been all over this from day one.
And Windhorst has been in.
And Windhorst as well, of course.
Brian Windhorst.
Anything associated with LeBron James, Brian Windhorst is all over. So we understand that. Let's just do that, get that out the way. As I reported weeks ago, I'm thinking Andrew Luck. Kevin Love made it very, very clear to the Minnesota Timberwolves and to everybody involved that he was not going to sign with anyone after this upcoming season but Cleveland. So essentially it was a foregone conclusion that today's events that have been reported was going to come down. We understand it. I still find it unacceptable on the part of Minnesota. And as fond as I am of Flip Saunders, I'm very fond of Flip Saunders, drop the ball on this. There's no other way to slice it. They can sit there and they can come back and they can engage in revisionist history all they want to. But in the end, Anthony Bennett, Andrew Wiggins, and a protected 2015 first-round pick is not good enough for Kevin Love when you had the opportunity before LeBron James announced that he was going to Cleveland, even though he knew beforehand he was going. That's why Dion Waiters said that he got a call from LeBron James prior to his announcement. He knew what time it is. The bottom line is, if you are the Minnesota Timberwolves, you had an opportunity to get Harrison Barnes, David Lee, and Klay Thompson from the Golden State Warriors. Andrew Wiggins, unless he becomes a superstar in conjunction with Anthony Bennett, does not measure up to what Golden State had to offer. Minnesota dropped the ball, plain and simple. In the end, therefore, is Cleveland's game. Because I got news for you. With Paul George going down in Indy, it's really about Chicago. It's really about Cleveland. I understand Miami wants us to believe they're still in the mix.
I love it when you diss D-Wade.
I
love it.
Listen.
Yes, you are.
First of all, that's my man.
You are.
I swear, don't do that. Don't do that
him.
because he's sensitive and he'll take it that way. D-Wade, I'm not doing that to you.
I love it.
I'm not doing that. D-Wade is a superstar when healthy. I have to see him healthy. I watched him deteriorate with those knees over the last 2 years. I have to see him healthy. If D-Wade is healthy, it's Cleveland, Miami. But without D-Wade healthy, it's Chicago and Cleveland.
Well, is D. Rose healthy? That's all another question. Is he going to stay healthy?
But at least I'm able to look at D. Rose in the summer and say, well, I'm looking at what I'm looking at. So I got to be able to see. If that continues, it's about Chicago. It's about Cleveland. And right now, I got news for you. Based on Love, Kyrie, and LeBron, Cleveland going to the finals. Cleveland going to the finals. And unless I'm telling you right now that I cannot see any way outside of Derrick Rose looking like the Derrick Rose of old. I cannot see any way that anybody in the East is going to derail Cleveland from going to the finals. But that's assuming LeBron continues to be LeBron. Because with all of this weight loss and all of that other stuff, you know, I'm hopeful that
he might be half a LeBron.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm going to bet my money on King James.
So Cleveland going to the
Cleveland going to the finals.
It's a fact.
Right? If Cleveland with this roster and what I'm seeing in the East, right now they're my favorite to go to the finals. Period.
As usual, you went many directions to start this show, so I have to take them one at a time.
Well, if you didn't interrupt,
I liked all of them. I liked them all.
You took me different places with your questions.
Back to the start. My first reaction to this is a big wow. Because if you recall, when LeBron James first wrote his essay for Sports Illustrated and we reacted to that, when LeBron said he was going home, I feared that he was going south because I could not figure how he was going to take a 33-49 team that had just lost Lou Alding and C.J. Miles and Spencer Hawes, who went to the Clippers. You lose that from a team that went 33-49, and all of a sudden you're going to tell me it should be in the mix to win the East? No. But Kevin Love was, at that point, wishful thinking to me. I couldn't really see it because the Golden State deal was still on the table, and Kevin Love hadn't yet made his fateful public announcement, hey, I will sign with only one team, and it's just LeBron's team. Well, all of a sudden, can you blame Steve Kerr and company, and you know all the brass there, but if they're going to rent Kevin Love for a year, are you going to give up Klay Thompson? Seriously.
No. What I'm saying to you is that before LeBron decided to go to Cleveland, Golden State was on the table.
Yeah.
And there's a very legitimate chance. If you recall, Kevin Love had reportedly stated, this is what he stated, Golden State or Chicago. So just like he's committed to Cleveland and LeBron.
You say they dragged their feet.
I'm saying they dragged their feet, and they had an opportunity to get him in Golden State. But I'm like, Golden State, to me, Minnesota should have jumped at that. I don't blame Golden State for holding off because I like what they have. But Minnesota should have jumped at that.
Okay. I wonder, you are in part blaming Flip Saunders for this. It sounded to me like the owner got involved, Glenn Taylor,
possibly,
in the end, the last couple of weeks, and said, hey, if I'm going to lose Kevin Love, I at least want to get back the first pick in the draft, Andrew Wiggins, and a former first pick in the draft, and Anthony Bennett, and even a protected 2015 draft choice. At least I have some hope to sell to my fans when we lose Kevin Love. I'm with you. That's not near enough for Kevin Love. And what I don't understand is, why did Minnesota then hold Cleveland hostage and say, well, he says he'll only sign with you guys. We want more. We want Kyrie. We're going to hold out here and play chicken.
Because, to answer your question, they couldn't afford to wait because if you're trying to build momentum for the upcoming season, how are you going to do that with a star who has already been on the record saying he no longer wants to play for you?
Yeah.
And if you're Flip Saunders, where you made the mistake, I say this respectfully because I respect Flip Saunders, where he made the mistake is that I would dare say Flip Saunders was entirely a bit too preoccupied with trying to become the head coach of Minnesota rather than being the executive he was hired to be, because you have to remember there were coaching candidates out there available, but Flip Saunders might have interviewed somebody, might have talked a good talk, but everybody and their mother associated with the NBA knew that Flip Saunders was playing the waiting game, trying to convince Glenn Taylor that he wanted to be the head coach because Glenn Taylor was of the mindset that I hired you to be an executive. I'm giving you this is the insider talking to you now. The Glenn Taylor basically said to him, look, I hired you to be the executive. I didn't hire you back to be the coach. But Flip Saunders has something to prove because the man can coach. He is skilled and knowledgeable about the game of basketball. And he wanted to prove, based on his exodus from Washington, that he could still do this on a coaching level. The problem is you may have been a bit too preoccupied with that and dropped the ball as an executive in terms of getting rid of Love for the most, as opposed to, in this case, for something that I don't believe measures up to anything that Golden State had on the table for.
Okay, but the point is that Flip misread the signs, because he, as late as maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, I was reading that Flip wanted to keep Kevin Love for this coming year. Am I right?
Yeah. He wanted to keep Love because he knew that Love gave him the best chance of getting to the playoffs.
Well, sure.
But Love grew more adamant that he didn't want to be there. And my point is that it should not have taken that. The moment Love said, Love knew that he was going to be a free agent in the summer of 2015, y'all. What does he do? At the end of the season, he comes out and says, Chicago and Golden State is where I want to be. He made it very, very clear he wants out now. So why would you even contemplate keeping him for the upcoming season, which is what Flip did at one point.
Okay, what Flip misread is that LeBron going to Cleveland. He didn't see that coming? Is that what?
I don't know. I don't want to accuse Flip of that because I haven't spoken to him and I don't know. What I'm saying to you is that it doesn't matter. The minute the man tells you he does not want to play for you, if he's a star, understand this about the NBA. When a star tells you he no longer wants to play for you, that's trouble. Because he's the box office attraction. So if he's letting everybody in their respective city know, look, I don't want to be here any longer, you've got a huge problem. So for Flip to ever contemplate, oh, I can coach him for this year, and then we'll see what happens before the trading deadline, or we'll see what we can work out in a sign and trade next summer, was fool's gold. The second Kevin Love was willing to go on the record, because we all knew, as insiders, we all knew that Kevin Love was going 2015. But the second he told you prior to even the 2014-2015 season, you should have been getting him out of there right then.
Yeah.
Okay, but you can't give him away early. You want to negotiate. You want to drag it on. You want to auction him off to the highest bidder. Maybe he didn't think he'd heard the highest bid yet.
That's true. But what I'm saying to you, Skip, is that because it's possible, I understand on the way you're looking at it, Love is an elite talent. So as a result of that, there's going to be suitors, and who knows what they're willing to give, right?
But I mean, who would know at the trade deadline next year?
That's true. But the problem is that when you have tickets to sell and you have a fan base to appease, and the star says, I don't want to be here, and he says it a year before he has to, he's telling you he wants out now. Fine. So if he does that, and you have 3 starters on a playoff team in Golden State being offered to you, plus their willingness to take Kevin Martin.
Are you sure that Klay Thompson was on the table because there is difference of opinion about whether he was included in the first offer?
I'm going to say this for the record for first takes purposes. I'm not offended by your question. I am not asking. And I don't give a damn what Flip Saunders or Minnesota says. I am telling you, initially, not once LeBron was in Cleveland, initially, Klay Thompson was on the table. Klay Thompson was on the table, along with David Lee
and Harrison
Barnes. Okay. And they were willing to take Kevin Martin's contract if Minnesota was willing to forfeit the number 13 overall pick in this past draft, which was the kid out of UCLA. Flip didn't want to give that up. But my point is, if you got somebody to take Kevin Martin's contract from you, plus they're willing to give you 3 starters,
but wait a second.
You do it.
Okay, but you're using 20/20 hindsight right now, because he did not know that LeBron was going to leave Miami to go home. And once he went home, Flip got checkmated by Kevin Love, who suddenly announces, wait a second, I'll only sign with LeBron.
And I'm saying to you that's fair, but let's not act like I'm engaging in a history that is attached to LeBron going to Miami. Before LeBron went to Miami, I was right here in this seat. Look, man, you better take that deal. You're not going to get much better than that. Because of the kind of things you were saying. For Love's 26-12, you also saw a guy that wasn't considered the most athletic person in the world, that was considered somewhat cancerous in the locker room, even though I think that's unfair to him because I like Kevin Love and I didn't get that, but there were J.J. Barea and other players that stepped to him. Plus, you had...
I've heard that many
times. That's right. I've heard that about him. Plus, you had a guy that is considered incredibly challenged defensively. So the combination of the 3 elements...
By the way, they never did make the playoffs one time.
Right. The last thing. But you pointed those things out. Well, that's what other executives were pointing out. So if you do that, knowing the game of basketball, you got to ask yourself, what are the chances that I'm going to have of getting 3 starters? Not to mention, and I'm not saying Golden State was just willing to give Klay Thompson away. There was tremendous trepidation, and they were a divided camp in Golden State because some people wanted to hold on to him. But make no mistake about it, in the end, to get Kevin Love, Klay Thompson was on that table. And I'm telling you right now, Klay Thompson, everybody keep talking about Steph Curry. You know that's my man. I love Steph Curry's game. But Klay Thompson is 6'6", 6'7". He can defend 3 positions. He can shoot from 3-point range. He's a matchup problem. Klay Thompson, the son of our very own Michael Thompson on ESPN Radio 710 in L.A., this boy can play.
Sure.
Do not sleep on him. Klay Thompson is no joke, and you got to jump at that. Okay,
so that deal that you're talking about is 5 times better than what they wound up with, because I'm on record. I do not think Andrew Wiggins will turn into, well, let's go to superstar, your favorite word. He is no superstar. I'll stand by that. From here on, he will never turn into a superstar. And now that's all you have to sell to your fan.
I could never use the word never with a young talent like Andrew Wiggins.
Okay.
He's not. He's raw. I think Jabari Parker is better, but the potential for Andrew Wiggins is there. Don't sleep.
Yahoo Sports still reporting the precise deal terms have yet to have been agreed upon for a few weeks, but they decided not to say anything.